It's good to see you again on our program, Agri-Biotech and Food Security. Our topic for today's program is achieving zero hunger goal by 2030. Can genetically modified crops play a significant role in this? Many experts say yes to that because biotechnology is such that can help by improving crop yield and preventing waste. Gene editing, they say, allows scientists alter the characteristics of plants, including letting them grow with less water and making them more resilient. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals targets supremely ambitious and transformational vision, envisaging a world free of poverty, hunger, and diseases. It is believed that the targets will stimulate actions over the next 15 years. And what will be the role of genetically modified crops in ensuring a hunger-free Nigeria by 2030, when our population would have grown to an estimated 270 million people? Welcome to this edition of Agri-Biotechnology and Food Security. I am Kirian Umayo, and I do believe in biotechnology. Today, we shall broaden your knowledge on the imperativeness of biotechnology application in agriculture for total food security. And our guest today is the Executive Secretary of Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria, Professor Garba Hamidu Sharubutu, specialist in infectious diseases and livestock and reproductive diseases as well. Now, joining me on the program today is the Executive Secretary of the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria, ARCN, in the person of Professor Garba Sharubutu. So you're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, now we are going to deliberate on a topic, achieving zero hunger by 2030. What could be the role of genetically modified crops? That is where we'll center our conversation. Now, what do you understand by zero hunger in the first place? Because I'm concerned the reason why the UN has taken that upon itself to design a period of development to say, look, between now and 2030, the world will have attained certain, landmark achievements with respect to food security and what have you.
My understanding, and by implication, the understanding of the agency that I superintend over, and invariably that of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, is that by the end of this period that has been earmarked, Nigeria should be self-sufficient, food will be available and accessible. And through that, we'll be able to contain the need for food, not only in terms of quantity, but also of quality, so that Nigerians will have access to food, the food will be available, it will be affordable. That is our own understanding and the target of this zero hunger. And it goes in line with the Sustainable Development Goal 2.
We have been practicing conventional agriculture for a very long time, for decades now. Yet Nigeria is one of the countries that could not feed herself. And in that connection, it means that we have not done pretty well when it comes to conventional agriculture. And many countries have moved away from that, not necessarily rejecting it, but moved away or shifted a bit to genetically modified crops, which of course could guarantee the kind of food sustainability that we're talking about. Now, in the Nigerian context, we just have about few crops that have been commercialized, and GM commercialized, and it's not enough, when you look at the staple foods in this country. Now, what role do you think GM crops will play in ensuring that by 2030 Nigeria will be sufficient in food production?
Yeah, first of all, before we get to understand the role that GMO crops or food will solve, there's a need for us to appreciate, in the first instance, the reason as to why this innovation came about. It came about as a result of our growing population and the need for us to produce more in order to sustain the growth. It also came around as a result of losses that has been incurred in terms of diseases and pests that attack our crops, and also the need for us to have economic sustainability where our inputs and investment on our farmlands will not just be wasted. As far as GMO foods are concerned, it is our belief as researchers in the agricultural sciences that that is the way to go, because our population is growing geometrically, and if we do not have varieties of crops that will meet up that demand, it's going to be a hell lot of a problem for us, because we may not be able to produce enough for us to feed the ever-growing population. But let me say this, that initially it was a question of putting one qualitative variety with the other. It came to a point where we felt our local crops should be crossbred with other foreign ones, drawing from the quality that is being derived from both sides of the divide. Like for example, if you have a crop that is indigenous to Nigeria, another one indigenous to Britain, and you look at the quality that is available in the breed or the variety that is British, and then you crossbreed it with Nigerian. And so you have a hybrid. And this hybrid, there has not been much problem with it. But the issue of the GMO came because you are using a genetic material from one crop or from one organism, whichever that organism is, and putting it into the DNA of the one you actually want to modify. So, and of course, Nigeria has laws that governs that. No scientist wants to go into the public or go to the laboratory and produce for the public consumption what is going to be harmful. Now, having understood the basic concept behind, or the principle behind these GMOs, I think I'll go to say that that is the best way to go for now, because the environment is creating so many hiccups as far as food production is concerned. And if you do not scientifically meet those challenges, we are going to have problems. Pests, for example, diseases, you have drought, you have flood, and so many other things. So there is a need for us to also, from the laboratory end, fight these challenges that are emerging. Once we are able to achieve that, we'll be able to produce more food, those that are more nutritious, incorporating more nutrients into the food or variety of crops that we are producing.
There have been misconceptions about biotechnology, even among the elite, who should understand the concept, being a science. And, we're also concerned about believability. That's to say, do Nigerians want to believe in this concept? How do you disabuse people's mind on the already misconception concerning the benefits derivable from GM crops?
Let us first of all disabuse the mind of our citizenry. GMOs are not just produced overnight. They take a very long time to produce. These varieties that you mentioned, it took us in the laboratory not less than 10, 15 years to actually come up with. Secondly, the law of the nation in itself has also created institutions that is supposed to check before we eventually pronounce it as being released. The final activity is the release. And when we say this crop has been released or this variety has been released into the public, it means it has passed through all the tests. Now, first of all, you incubate the idea of developing a GMO, you look at the source of that material, be it a bacteria or a plant at itself. So you investigate that source of genetic material that you want to do. You run all the tests in the laboratory, even before you commence the process of fixing it into the DNA. You also understand the negative effect of that source of material before you commence the laboratory experiment. Now, having produced that in the laboratory, you subject it to all forms of tests. Then you do an adaptive study. After that, Nigeria has created the institution called NAFDA. NAFDA is in charge of all agricultural produce that the gene has been tampered with, and that is the biotechnology that is there. Now, the National Biotechnology Development Agency will look at the genetic conformation of that crop and then run its own test also. And when it's running the test, it is taking care of three things. You know, we have One Health now. It takes care of the environment. They study the environment under which that one grows, the crops around, the trees around, the nature of the soil, what effect it has on that soil. From that point, we will now move to the National Biosafety Management Agency. It's a different institution altogether. So we start from the laboratory, we went to NAFDA, we are now at the level of biosafety. The Biosafety Agency will also understudy that variety that we are about to release. After that, it now moves to the Variety Release Committee, where you have a group of experts that will look at the procedure. For each step you take, you must interrogate from the beginning, right from the history to the point where you are. So the Variety Release Committee will now sit down and meet in the midst of so many societies. And this Variety Release Committee is made up of biochemists, microbiologists, medical doctors, and all other scientists before they come up with this. So I'm disabusing the minds of people so that our citizens will not think that this crop will just sit down, somebody will sit in the lab and manufacture something and just throw it. For us in Nigeria, that is the procedure to go. And that's the more reason why you find out that we have very few of them. It's because of the diligent work that is being done in order to make sure that these things are really very, very safe. But you see, we have a belief in this country. The belief there is that once somebody says something bad, it continues to spread as fast as possible. Anything good, nobody thinks about it. If the government passes a policy now, somebody is sitting somewhere on his handset. He has an idea of how to log in and send all forms of negative information, concocting all forms of story, cutting the head of an animal and fixing it on the leg of a human being and say that it is as a result of this. These are all stories that don't hold water. Now, the developed nations have gone very, very far in terms of adopting GMOs in order to solve their populace. So for now, what we do is we rely on what government has produced and giving us for us to ensure that there's safety in whatever we release from the laboratory.
Let's pause for a break now. We shall be back in a moment. This is introducing a new TV series on agricultural biotechnology, one of the most complex and accurate scientific discoveries designed to provide sustainable food security for humanity. In the light of rapid population growth, Agri-Biotech must be understood, accepted, and embraced to realize its full potentialities. Nigerian agriculture is vulnerable to climate change with associated occurrences, reducing agricultural production across the nation. But biotech offers new tools for increasing agricultural productivity and protection of food crops. And from farmers, testimonies abound on the benefits of genetically modified crops. In this TV series, we shall be dissecting issues surrounding Agri-Biotech with experts on its understanding, acceptability, and application, week in, week out. Join me, Kirian Umaya, on our show, Agri-Biotech and Food Security. Be my guest. Tuesdays, 7:30 p.m. on NTA International. Brought to you by OFAB Nigeria under the auspices of NAFDA. We are still with Professor Garba Shaributu on this edition of the program. He is looking at hunger-free Nigeria by the year 2030. Let us domesticate that sustainable goal to see how we can reflect on it and ensure that we abide by that to be able to achieve that objective. Now, you know there is food insufficiency in this country at the moment. What should be the proper steps to take at the moment?
You see, you will never go to any village or any town and go to the market and you will not see food items. They are always there. But the cost of food is very, very high. Similarly, internationally, globally now, the record we have is that the price of foodstuff are getting lower and lower in other climes, but not in Nigeria. These are the things that economists should interrogate and find out why it is peculiar to us in this country. The wisdom behind the declaration of state of emergency, the secret behind it is that we must plow our people back to farm. We must ensure that everybody has a sense of responsibility to the farm. He did that because he wanted water resources to come closer, trade and investment to join hands with Federal Ministry of Agriculture in order to make sure that we attack this subject matter. Before now, we were functioning in isolated fashion. Today, what Mr. President has done is to bring us all these ministries together and ensure that things are happening. Now, let me say this, that even at the level of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, the warning that was passed by the Minister of State, Federal Minister of Agriculture yesterday is that every department must see another person as a co. The template that is being put before us now is for any activity that is domiciled in ARCN. ARCN must look for a partner in the department within the ministry, outside the ministry, before our programs are now accepted. That was the resolution as at yesterday. And we are preparing a paper for our own minister to go and make his own commitment to Mr. President, because each of the ministers is going to make that. And this is our direction now. Precisely, that's what we are saying. You see, for now, this issue of technology transfer did not start today. If you recall, during the Shagari era, there was this concept of transfer of technology. Because we received that technology and sat down on it. We were not able to utilize it and develop further. We can't bring our cars. We rely on it. So the caution now by my own minister is that we must continue to evolve new ways, new thinking, while utilizing whatever we have gotten now, we must utilize. That's the more reason why for Agricultural Research Council, for example, we are now trying to separate the scientific aspect of our own activities from the commercial aspect. So we have registered spin-off companies, and so whatever you develop, you send it to your company, the companies will tell you, while the research end keeps on modifying this. Now we have, for example, various varieties of rice that we have been able to develop and release in this country. We have not stopped at that. The minister has asked us to go back, look at those varieties that we have released before, and try to see if there are new things we can incorporate into them in view of the changing environment that we're having. So all our scientists have now been rejigged. They have now gone back to look at those varieties and try to see how they can improve. Now, I can tell you that it is now faster because the initial technology has already been acquired. So it's now faster for us to release varieties. Right now, this year alone, in various crops, we have been able to release not less than 21 varieties of different crops. Varieties of onion, varieties of wheat, varieties of rice, varieties of millet. We have been able to do that because our technological know-how has been strengthened, and so we'll now continue. So the gestation period will now be shorter because you have already acquired all the necessary skills and the equipment to continue to.
On that note, we'd like to thank you very much, Executive Secretary, Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria, Professor Garba Sharubutu. Thank you indeed for offering us your time and, of course, your bank of knowledge. Thank you very much. We have been talking to a cross section of Nigerians on their understanding of agri-biotechnology and its application, and whether or not the technology can assist Nigeria in food production.
Biotechnology, of course, is the way to go. It is just an improvement. And there is no way you can be talking about planting insecticides resistant crops and seeds, without the application of biotechnology. So that's the way to go. That's the way of the world. That's the fastest way you can accelerate, food production and food security. We actually have a whole agency in Nigeria dedicated to the development of biotechnology, and that's NABDA. Yes, you need biotechnology, to be able to develop, like I told you, whether in this day and time of climate change, soy-based, soy-suitable, soy-protected against insecticides and other pesticides. It is biotechnology that will help you to do so. And when you're talking about technology-supported food systems, biotechnology will be your best pathway. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily mean that what comes out of biotechnology systems, are dangerous to for human consumption or to human health. The moment people hear biotechnology, what they're thinking about is synthetic food. Biotechnology does not necessarily need to be things that are synthetic. In fact, they are not in the proper application. What biotechnology basically does is that it helps you to be more adaptable, okay, to what you might call present realities on the ground. Help you to be able to manage your soil better, helps you to be able to manage your water systems better, help you to manage your outputs, better. That's what this is all about. Biotechnology that is being supported by research. Bio does not necessarily mean that it is synthetic. Okay, bio means that it is scientifically supported. Okay, so I don't know why you wouldn't want to say that. Why do you add additives to your feeds? Why do you use pesticides? Why do you use insecticides? Why? If you say it's not there's nothing that you use in excess that is good for you. Even the organic things that you say you want to do, they're still not good for you. But if you use it in moderation, then it helps you, to grow more food under all seasons. And even with people talking about rain-fed, what about acid rain? What about saline intrusion? Okay. These are all natural things that can also, poison your, not even your health, your ground, the land that you're planting. So it does not necessarily mean that when you use hoe and the digger, that you won't get that earth poison. There's so many other factors that can poison your land. That's the point I'm trying to make.
About technology, we have some regulatory agency that's supposed at least to certify those biotechnology crops, and these people are saddled with this certification, supposed to give awareness, sensitize Nigeria concerning those things, like NAFDAC, like the Standard Organization of Nigeria, like Consumer Protection Board. All those people, they are the one in charge that are supposed to saddle with the sensitization of this product, because this product may be good genetically, in terms of yield, in terms of multiplication, but earth-wise, we're supposed to know earth-wise, because they say the last one of Nigeria is 50-something, while China own is now 90-something. So all these things, earth-wise, you have to look into this genetic modification of crop, because now what you consume, you have to know the health implication of it. That's why Nigeria are skeptical concerning this genetic modification of crop. They should guarantee Nigeria the efficacy of the thing that they want to give Nigeria.
So what do you think about planting biotechnology crops in Nigeria?
What I'm thinking about, because since I'm a scientist also, is according to what we read about it, is good, but the government should make sure that their agency in charge of sensitizing people should try and make sure they certify those seed for Nigeria before they use it.
To achieve zero hunger goal by 2030 is no doubt a tall order, but achievable only by nations that would engage in essential strategies required to boost agriculture, develop value addition to the food chain. One such strategy is agri-biotechnology. Thank you for watching, and please join me again next week when I will be around with a fresh edition of Agri-Biotech and Food Security.